everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're covering episode 20, Father Before the Grave.
Yes. In this episode, Hohenheim's visit ends with a grave warning to Pinocchio, but Ed finds hope among the charred ruins of his childhood. Now more than ever, he has confidence that Al can return to his body.
Yes, this episode covers manga chapter 42, The Father Standing Before a Grave, chapter 43, River of Mud, and chapter 44, The Unnamed Grave. Very ominous titles.
Yeah, I know. They're all kind of serious.
Morose.
Yes. Well, let's just jump right into it. We don't really have anything else to discuss. So we start the episode off where the last one ended, where Ed sees Hohenheim at the grave, and Ed is very angry.
I find it interesting that the last episode ended with him saying Hohenheim when the normal, like the conventional cliffhanger for a lot of these types of shows in this kind of genre would be for him to say father or dad or something like that, but no, Hohenheim. And, some of the viewers might be confused, like, is that his father? We thought that was his father. But Ed doesn't call him.
You can just tell right away that he has no respect for his dad and is very angry at him. And he just kind of chews him out as soon as he sees him. And I don't know, his Hohenheim is very, like, he just kind of stands there and he has, like, pretty much no reaction. Like, one of the first things he says is, like, looks like you've gotten taller.
It's funny. He's, cannot be bothered really. But in the manga, he has more of like a spaced out look. And he says, "You've gotten bigger?" And Ed goes, "Why phrase it like a question?" And Hohenheim says, "You've become quite famous in Central City. The smallest state alchemist in history, right?" And Ed just shrieks, "The youngest!"
Yeah. It's kind of funny because that's what happened in the manga. That's what he does. But when Hohenheim looks like you've gotten taller, Ed has like no reaction. I mean, like you can tell he's mad, but like he doesn't scream like every other time that anyone's ever made any reference to his height. And then Hohenheim asks him about doing the human transmutation, and he's accused Ed of burning down his home. And Ed is like, well, we did it because we didn't want to, it was a symbol of no turning back. We're on a mission. And Hohenheim immediately is like, nope, that's not why you did it, because you were running away. And it wasn't a resolution. And Ed is, I don't know, this moment he's very much a son. He's like, you don't know anything.
Yeah. It's even funnier in the manga, and we're going to have to post this to our Instagram, but there's a panel where Ed is walking away and Hohenheim notices that he has his hair in a ponytail. It's like, "Oh, you're growing your hair out. It looks like mine," because Hohenheim has a ponytail. And Ed just like whips his head around, starts angrily braiding his hair instead, and then gives him like a snarl and keeps walking.
Yeah, so needless to say, he is not a fan of his father. And then we cut to Ed sleeping, and first of all, he looks very sweet, and also his hair is like down, and it's just like
cascading over the pillow.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. I was very jealous. I was like,
I don't have hair like that.
Yeah, I'll never have hair like that.
My hair looks totally gross when I'm sleeping. It gets tangled.
Yeah.
And it's not as long as Ed's, for sure.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I was just jealous, and I was like, I just want to touch it. And that's what, and that's what Hohenheim tries to do. He like, not because he thinks Ed's hair is beautiful, but just more of a fatherly thing.
Yeah, you know what? I've noticed that dads always try to touch their kids' heads in a loving way. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you'll have to like pay attention to this next time you're with your dad, but if he gives you a hug, does he cradle the back of your head when he hugs you? Because I never noticed that before, but as I watched more shows and even animated shows, I would notice when a dad would hug his son or daughter, there was always like that head holding part of it. Kind of like, when you're a baby and they say support the head. And so the
Mm-hmm.
next time I was back home and my dad gave me a hug, I was like, he touched the back of my head. He cradled my head. So,
Hmm.
and like when my mom hugs me, she just kind of like pats my back. So it's like the difference between mothers and fathers. And I don't think that's like always the case, but I thought it was interesting that it happens that often that they would put that in animation.
Yeah, I guess I've noticed that in animation because then there's also like where sometimes they'll like reach out and like ruffle their kid's hair
Mm-hmm.
in a loving way. Yeah. Anyway, Hohenheim doesn't actually touch Ed's head. I think he's kind of, I don't know, he probably is afraid to, and also like he maybe doesn't think that he deserves to. But then we see that Ed was actually awake when Hohenheim came in. Then Pinocchio and Hohenheim are talking, and it's kind of funny. Like Den is kind of, he didn't seem to be a big fan of Hohenheim. He's like
Smart dog.
growling in the corner. Yeah, he knows what's up. Um, Pinocchio tells Hohenheim that Trisha waited for him to come back till the end, which is, I don't know, kind of sad.
Yeah.
Then Hohenheim asks an interesting question if what the boys had during the human transmutation, if they actually had transmuted Trisha. And Pinocchio is like, well, I didn't really look because I just wanted to, bury it and forget about it. And Ed Ed hears Hohenheim asking this and he's horrified. Like he's like, what if what they transmuted wasn't even their mother? Then we head back to Central.
Woohoo.
Al, yeah, away from that possibly startling revelation. Al is telling Ling about how his soul is bonded to the armor, and Ling is very excited because he's like, "Wow, you don't have to eat, you don't have to sleep, you're practically invincible."
I like their conversation in the manga because if you'll remember, Ling sort of had a little heart-to-heart with Ed and Al earlier in the anime, and that was when he revealed that he's a prince of Xing. Um, but in the manga, that conversation actually happens right now between him, Al, and Winry. So Al is aware that Hohenheim is in Risen Bull right now, so he and Ling have that talk about their fathers, and Ling reveals he's a prince, and in this version, Winry and Al are the ones who break into a laughing fit when they realize Ling is a prince.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and it's also funny because like Ling like proposes to Winry. It's like you could be a princess.
You're very beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and it's a good thing that Ed wasn't there to hear that because
You would have clocked him.
yeah. Then so Ling is excited about Al's quote unquote immortality. But Al says it's probably not, and he tells them about his revelation that we heard in the last episode that his body may reject his soul. But then Ling is like, well, it can just be moved to a new body. And he's like, it's so awesome, and he's super excited about it. And Winry gets very angry, and she says it is not awesome. And then she storms off, and it's kind of funny because she throws herself on her bed, and looks very much like I would say a Disney princess because
Yep.
that's like I don't know if you've seen that meme, but like
Yes.
yeah, where like all the Disney princesses like dramatically throw themselves on top of
A chair, a couch, a bed, or whatever.
yeah, yep,
Sob dramatically.
yeah. And actually, one more thing that I found interesting in the manga is when Ling is talking about how he needs immortality. It's actually revealed that he's not really necessarily searching for immortality. He just needs the illusion of it. because he wants to, because he thinks that finding the key to immortality will improve his chances of actually becoming emperor. If he tells his father, who's the emperor right now, about immortality, but he doesn't actually want to know how to become immortal, because then if his father becomes immortal, then he'll never become the emperor.
Yeah.
So that he's, which I found kind of interesting, because I don't think they ever like clarify that in the anime, that like he's not really searching for immortality.
He doesn't really want it for himself. He just wants the information because knowledge is
Yeah.
power.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't know. I like, and that was always a question that I guess that I had when I was watching this. It was like, okay, but if he gets immortality and then shares it with the emperor, then yeah, he'll never be emperor, because the emperor will live forever. But reading the manga, I was like, okay, that makes more sense. But anyway, Al goes after Winry, and he's like, between you and Ed, I never get the chance to be mad. And Al is, I don't know, he's always just so sweet.
Yeah.
Winry is like, has a little flashback of Al after the boys have committed transmutation, and Al is in his new body and can't sleep.
Yeah, it's there's a bit more to it in the manga where he's discovering what his body can't do. Like he can't feel temperature differences, he can't eat, he can't sleep. And he has a quote that I found really relatable for some reason. He said, "Each night feels as if it's never going to end. It makes me feel it makes me think about things that I shouldn't." Like if you ever had a night where you can't fall asleep, your mind will go to dark places or embarrassing places or anything in between.
Yeah, I feel like that's when I can't fall asleep, that is when my mind is the weakest.
Yep. You should never make a big decision when you're tired or late at night. A lot of people have made mistakes, I think, by making a rash decision because they didn't get enough rest. And speaking from experience, that is true. Don't make a decision till the morning.
Yeah. But I will say, sometimes I do have my greatest ideas in the middle of the night, and then I forget them.
Oh, yeah.
Or like I just have like like, wait, I had this good idea for this thing that I needed to do, and then it's kind of the worst.
Keep a little notebook by your bed.
I know you're not supposed to do this, but I do it anyway. I sleep with my phone next to my next to my bed, which a lot of people do. So I will sometimes like jot down a note on my phone if I remember something. And then also like in the morning, you don't necessarily, if it's like about making a decision, you can just like go back to your note and be like, okay, was this a good idea, or was this just my
it's like
brain
deprived craziness?
Yeah. Anyway, it would be terrible to be. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Al in that situation. The only thing, I guess, okay, if you could never sleep and like everybody else was, what would you do with that time?
Well, I read a book series once where it was like a superhero type series, and one of the characters, her superpower was that she didn't need sleep. And she learned how to do like everything. Like she was really into science, so she would do inventions when people were sleeping. She learned martial arts. She learned like dart throwing. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, I would finally do all the things I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to do that, but I don't have time.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. I would, learn all the things that I wanted to do. And I'd also do a lot of reading.
Yes.
It'd be pretty great.
Except I probably look at the stars quite a bit.
Yeah, you'd like, stargazing. I've never actually been actually, okay, that's not true. I have been stargazing one time, and it was it was like I went out with my youth group to the middle of a frozen lake. It was like probably like 0 degrees out, and we laid on on the ice and looked at the stars.
That
And
sounds
like,
amazing.
okay, yes, it was very beautiful, but it was so cold. I like couldn't even like I could barely comprehend like what I was looking at because all I was thinking was like, I need to get back inside. I need a warm cup of hot cocoa in my hands. I'm about to die.
Oh no.
So it it wasn't the magical experience that I would have wanted, but back to the story. Ed is still in Risenbull. He's having a dream. So right after we see like Al being sad, Ed is having this dream that he's like, give me my brother's body back, like give him back to me. And Truth is accusing him of Truth accuses him of like, you're the one that gave your brother's body up. You toss him aside and shoved him in this piece of armor, and then he compares he's compared to Shao Tucker. We see
Boo.
Shao Tucker
Ew. Get out of
and
here.
Nina, and then also his mother, or what he thinks is his mother, and he's like, bring me back, you know, bring me back, Ed. And it's a very scary dream. And then he wakes up and Hohenheim is leaving and Ed refuses to say goodbye to him. And as Hohenheim is leaving, Pinako, well, first Hohenheim takes a picture of his family, which you're like, okay, maybe he's not the worst.
He wants a family photo to take with him, so he must care about them
Yeah,
in
he
some
must care a
sense.
little. But then he also warns Pinako that some really terrible things are going to happen in the country and she should leave. And she honestly, like, one of my favorite reactions ever. She's like, meh. Like, it
Like
just
a mom
cracks
from
me.
Despicable Me. Meh.
Yeah, yeah, meh,
Meh.
meh. Yeah. And she's like, oh, this country sucks anyway. Like, bad things happen all the time. What could possibly be so bad that I would need to leave?
Or
Um,
like, I'm staying here. This is my home.
yeah,
And
and she does say, I don't, she might say in the anime, she says that in the manga where, she's like, there's people that need this place,
yeah,
you
for
know,
their
there's,
automail.
and like, this is a home to other people.
Yeah, for
So,
automail to come back
yeah,
to.
yeah, and Winry
That's
too.
sweet.
And she tells Hohenheim not to be a stranger, and he sends him on his way. And then Ed decides he needs to dig up that thing. He and Pinako head out to the side of their home to dig up the body that they transmuted. Um, and it's honestly like this scene, I don't know, it's terrible, but also so powerful. I don't know, I really liked it. So first Ed, we see Ed, some things he has to deal with when because of his automail, his stumps are achy because of the rain, and he's like, while he's digging, he keeps like stopping to like throw up, and it's
Yeah.
making him very sick. And okay, I think part of it is, yes, it's his stumps are achy, but also like just what he is doing.
Oh, for
Like
sure. The emotional
it's
backlash of that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But we can't ignore the physical aspects because
mhm,
earlier in the manga and the anime, there was that one episode where he woke up and he's holding his leg and he says it hurts. And if you notice in the background of that scene, it's starting to rain. So this has
mhm,
happened before, and you'll hear stories of people in real life saying like, like if they got a metal hip or like a joint or something replaced, and they say, oh yeah, I can feel changes in temperature.
mhm.
Or like if you have, this is completely different, but if you have like a permanent retainer and you feel it zing, the metal zing when you hit something cold or open your mouth in the winter, that's the closest I'm ever gonna get to that feeling. but
That you know of, yes.
that I know of. Oh my word. I'm not planning on losing any arms, but but anyway, the other thing about this scene is it is very powerful and I love it. The voice acting is very impressive. I mean, like
mhm.
the gagging noises that come out of Ed
Yeah.
are just very realistic, actually. And just there's like the dramatic music, and
Mhm. And
beautiful
there's just like,
scenery.
yeah, there's like a lot of emotion
Yeah.
behind the words that
And
he's
especially the
saying.
art in the manga, we were just talking about it. It
Yeah.
is impactful.
Yeah, it's great. Um, but anyway, while Ed is struggling, Panako, I don't know, Panako's just she's just a great in this scene. She's just like a solid supporter. Like she does like keep telling him to stop, but Ed's very determined to go on, and so she just keeps working alongside him. And then they finally get to the body, and Ed pulls out hair, and the hair is black, and his mother's was, he says, chestnut brown. And then also you can just see the femur bones are like huge. And also Panako says that the pelvis is male. And so it's like for sure it was not Trisha. Um and at first, like, Panako is like, I'm so sorry, this is terrible. Like, you boys went through all this pain, um, and suffering for nothing. But then Ed, I don't know,
He does
he's
kind of a
starts,
crazy laugh.
yeah, yeah, he does. He does like that crazy, like hysterical laugh. And he's actually, at first I think he is like, wow, this is for nothing, but also at the same time he realizes that it's impossible to bring the dead back to life. But he also realizes that Al can probably be returned to normal for sure. Because his, well, he'll get into it later.
Yeah.
But
And it's this great scene where Ed is relieved because
mhm,
I mean, for all the hardship they went through and seemingly for nothing, at least now he has this concrete truth to hold on to. And sometimes that's
mhm,
all you need in a moment of panic or uncertainty is one, like you wrote in the notes, one undeniable truth to have and to hold so that you don't go crazy.
yeah, yeah. Because he's Ed is like, this transmutation was a symbol of despair, but now I don't know, it's kind of turned into a symbol of hope that yes, it might be possible to bring Hal back for real. And Ed also calls Azumi and asks if the child that she transmuted was actually hers. And she doesn't answer. She just hangs up on him. But we'll get back to that later. And Hanako and Ed visit the Rockbells. Well, actually, I don't. I'm pretty sure they do this in anime, but they bury
Oh yeah,
they
they bury
they
the
give
thing that
they
they
yeah,
transmuted.
they give the thing a proper burial. And Ed, at least in the manga, he saw the thing that he transmuted looked at him, so he knows it had life, and so it deserves respect, and so they bury it. And Pinako at first is like, she's like, oh, this boy is using the definition of human life a little loosely, but
No,
he
he's
has
not.
to, because if he
And
thinks that this thing isn't alive, then like what does he think of his brother who doesn't even
yeah.
have a body? You know?
Ed respects the sanctity of life so much,
Mm-hmm.
and that is powerful for a protagonist to have.
Yeah, it is. So they give that thing a proper burial. It's very, I don't know. It's very sweet. And yeah, I like that he respects life. And then Ed and Panako visit the Rockbells' graves, and Ed tells Panako about what he learned, what happened with the Ishvalans, and how they helped people.
Well, and they don't really specify in the anime, but we don't know if in the anime Ed told her that they died by Nishvalin's hand, but in the manga, Ed makes sure to tell her where they died, but not how. He couldn't bring himself to tell her that the very people they were helping, one of them killed the Rockbells.
Yeah. And then also Pinocchio gives Ed a message to pass to Hohenheim from his mother that she couldn't keep her promise. And so Ed's very confused and he very much does not want to pass on the message, but he says he will. And then he heads back to Central. And once he arrives there, he is very shocked because Al is very badly, he was destroyed in the fight with Lust. And also Ling is stuffing his face, presumably on Ed's charging it to Ed, and Ed immediately kicks Ling out. Also, just quickly in this moment, I'm pretty sure I noticed that Ed is getting taller. It seemed like he was like about the same height as Linry. Maybe just a little bit shorter. Interesting.
Interesting little fact there.
Yeah, it's an interesting little fact there. And then Ed tells Al about digging up the grave, and at first Al is like, "Why would you do that? Like, that's terrible." But then Ed asks Al about the memory of fighting over and marrying Winry, and if he remembered that, and Ed takes that as proof that Al's soul really is intact because he has memories from before.
Yeah, and he confirms it with Winry, and she says she has that memory as well. So he's like, I don't think he ever had any doubt, but he's like, he's a scientist, so you have to have proof there. So he's like, all right, you both remember something that I don't, so that's proof that it is Al's soul in the armor. And in the manga, it's really funny because Al and Winry go on to detail a lot of other things they did or said to Ed that he doesn't remember. And it's really funny because a lot of the words are blurred out, so they did some pretty terrible things to him.
Yeah, I like that. And then Ed asks Al what he remembers from being in the portal, and Al remembers that truth unraveled him, and he remembers grabbing his own hand, which we saw in the earlier episode, and that he finally tells Ed that he was looking at him from that thing's body, but then his soul was rejected from that body. And so the boys kind of conclude that Al's body is in the portal and they can pull it out. And in the manga, they kind of go into a little bit more detail. Ed's theory is that human beings are composed of the body, soul, and spirit, and obviously Al's soul is in the armor, and then they think his body is in the portal, and his spirit is what is connecting his body to the soul, which is interesting because I always think like the spirit and the soul are like kind of interchangeable things. Yeah. Like I would say you have your body and then your consciousness and then your soul.
It's interesting that they think there's like a trinity to it.
Yeah, and like what would even be like? I would like to. They didn't specify, but like, what would be the difference between your spirit and your soul?
So the spirit is the thing that connects the soul to the body. So there has to be a tie to both of them to keep it together.
Yeah.
So it's the go-between, something like that. But
but like, what even is that? I don't know.
I don't know. They're gonna get into more of that. Maybe the next episode or one of the later ones, because I think Ed has like a battle plan in mind for getting Al's body back. Yeah. So we'll get into that, the nitty-gritties of that later.
Yes, we will. But then while they're having this conversation, they get interrupted because Izumi has called Ed back and says that the baby that she transmuted wasn't hers. And that is like the final nail in the coffin that like death is permanent. And there's no way like they could, once somebody is dead and their soul has left their body, you can't bring them back. And then she thanks Ed, and the reason why she does that is because both Azumi and the boys and the Elrics think that they had killed their loved ones a second time. They are relieved to know that they didn't, which I totally get. That would be, honestly, to be honest, until I like watched this episode, I like didn't even think of that, because I never for 1 second thought that the thing that they had transmuted was their mother. So like that was like not even a thought that had crossed my mind. But when they said it, I was like, oh, I guess I could see how you would think that.
It would bring them back to suffer in that body that couldn't hold them. Yeah, boy.
And
so
then
they just made meat sacks basically with no soul inside.
Gross. So gross.
Well, Mustang did the same thing with
he did, but he wasn't. Yeah, but he didn't try to like
human
put a soul
transmutation.
In it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and then Al, I don't know. I really like his speech, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Basically, he tells Ed that at first he didn't want to get his body back if it means that someone else will get hurt, and because of all the people that he's met along the way on this journey, like all the chimeras, and then Barry, like he learned like, oh, I could be happy and like find meaning in this life being in this body. And he didn't want to watch anyone else suffer, so he thought that might be the answer. But it's really sad because he wants to be human again, because he doesn't want to spend any more nights alone. Yeah, it really.
Oh, you know what the kicker in this scene though is when he looks up at Ed and says the lines, I can't spend another night alone. The light hits his armor and it's like right under his eyes, so it looks like he's crying.
Yeah. It's just a very powerful scene, and it gets me. And so they decide that they're gonna get his body back, and they're both kind of like, they're very excited to do that. And they're ready to get back to work. And now that they've made this realization that Al's body is likely in the portal, they know they have a direction that they can go finally. I think they have been kind of lost these last few episodes.
Yeah, they were pegging everything on the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
And now that they can't use that, now they have an actual place to start from.
And then after they kind of like, this whole scene like happened on a staircase, and they like run up the staircase, and then we see that Winry. We see that Winry was listening to their conversation, and then she like the last line of the episode's like, she notices that Ed's shoulders are getting more buff.
No, that's not what she says. She says, were his shoulders always that broad? And okay, before the shippers go nuts, yes, this is a shipping moment. It is totally her checking him out. But
it's also like
the first time watching this, since that wasn't confirmed for us and we didn't want to get too far into that, we were like, oh, she's noticing he's growing up. He looks more capable.
Yeah, I think that is part of it. Like, one, she's checking him out, but also like, yeah, she's noticing that he's getting older and more mature, and like,
it's a weird realization to have about someone you're really close to.
Yeah. That is true. But I feel like there's a lot of those scenes in like shows or like movies and stuff where like the guy and the girl, like they grow up together, and then they're like best friends, and then one day they're really like, oh, I'm in love with him. Like, what?
All right, now that the episode is done, we are going to go to voice actor notes, and we're just going to do Von Hohenheim today. He is played by John Swayze, who also plays All for One from My Hero Academia. Hate that guy. Dallas Zachary from Attack on Titan, and Coach Nekomata from Haikyuu. Woo!
Just kidding.
So,
I don't honestly, except for Coach Yukai, I don't really love any of the other coaches in Haikyuu.
But Nekoma, I like him all right. I think he's
Eh,
cool. I just like Nekoma, so.
I don't know. I just like old guys talking about volleyball, like analyzing the game. And I had a lot to say about Shiro Torizawa's coach.
Oh yeah, he's mean. He's crotchety.
Uh,
But but anyway, um so his first name, Vaughn, it's spelled Van. Uh from what I could find, it's of Danish origin and it means from the origin of. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I equate it to like de in Spanish, which means of. So like Vaughn is like an of term, I guess. And then Hohenheim is actually a really important last name. So I've heard this elsewhere, but apparently the mangaka got this name from an actual alchemist. So
hmm.
the source for this quote is from Britannica, but it's Periclesis by the name of Philippus Aurelius Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim.
Oh my gosh.
Woo! What a name. And he was a German Swiss physician and alchemist who established the role of chemistry in medicine.
Hmm. Interesting.
Ah,
Which, huh. Well, we'll have to come back to that. Like
yeah.
his name makes sense when we learn more about him.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what were your first impressions of Hohenheim?
I did not like him. I was definitely like on Ed's side. Like
Yeah.
I was like, this dumb guy ditched his kids and his wife and gave literally at least no explanation, and he didn't never came back. And then he just like shows up, and like Ed is like clearly angry and upset with him, and he just has like no reaction.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
Plus, I
I don't
didn't
know.
trust him because he
Yeah.
looks too much like father to me.
Yeah, you totally thought he was, I mean, we don't know yet, but yeah.
But it
Megan was
seems
convinced that
suspicious.
he was father. I wasn't so sure, but
I don't know.
we'll have to find out.
There's just something very, you could have good reasoning for leaving, and then there are other shows and movies where a guy has good reasons for leaving his family behind, or a woman, but in this case, it's just like, if I'm gonna like you, you have to give me a dang good reason for leaving
Mm-hmm.
your young children behind and your wife. So don't, jury's still out. Jury's still out.
Yeah, yeah. Just needless to say, at first impression was not great.
No.
Although, I mean, he did have some good moments where he basically he like told Ed, "You ran away from your
Hmm.
problems,"
Well,
So
he's got some humanity, so that
yeah.
made me wonder what's up with him. I am curious.
Hmm.
But yeah, moving on to animation. My main comment is that it was beautiful. So there's those scenes with the rain. I couldn't tell for sure, but I think there was one shot where they used a multi-plane camera to add depth to the scene, which is like a technique that Disney developed, and it was just, it was gorgeous.
Hmm.
And I also like how they had the rain interact with the characters, like soaking their hair, making it darker, and you can see
Hmm.
droplets like rolling off the ends of their hair, especially with Ed's gorgeous golden mane.
Yes, really loved that scene. And then I thought I would talk about give a little bit of a, I guess, anatomy lesson because like Kanako was able to tell right away like, oh, this is a male based on the pelvis, and from my memories in from anatomy, like the difference between like the female and male pelvis, like females, they're typically their pelvises are thinner and less dense, and then also it's wider and kind of shallow, and also kind of a oval or rounded shape like the inside, and that's so that the babies can squeeze by. And then male pelvises are usually like heart shaped and like the inside and then they're more narrow because they don't need to have room for babies. And then also just another interesting thing. I don't think we see this in the bones that they're looking at, but the coccyx, which is like the also called the tailbone, it is in the males. It's usually like projected inwards and it doesn't move, and so like obviously a baby would never be able to fit through because it would be like get scratched by the tailbone. And then females, their tailbones, they are actually flexible and they're like straighter, so they don't like point inward. So kind of interesting.
Didn't know the flexible thing. I didn't learn that in bio, but yeah, that is interesting.
So interesting. If you're ever trying to figure out if a skeleton is male or female, you always look at the pelvis. You'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I'll be using that knowledge soon.
You never know. You might be about to say you might be digging a hole in your backyard and unearth.
Yeah. So story elements analysis. There's the important part of meeting a parent in this story. So you may have noticed, but a lot of protagonists in fiction are missing parents. And it's a classic Disney thing to do as well. But
honestly, just a classic story thing of like
give them some hardship.
Yeah.
Like missing one or both parents. So it is surprising to see Ed actually meeting his father, because you thought, oh, maybe he's an orphan like a lot of other anime shonen protagonists. But to be fair, he is like other protagonists, like Gon from Hunter x Hunter, where he has a father, he's just absent. But now he's back. So why is he suddenly here? This must mean something. Where's the story gonna go? So it just opens up a lot of questions, and it's very intriguing.
Yeah, this episode, I would say it's very, very different from the last episode. Like, the last episode was very action packed, but this one is you learn a lot. I guess it gives a new direction to the story, or like, opens up some new things. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what?
New things to be explored, I guess.
Right, coming off the high of last episode, it's almost not fair, because I think a lot of people would be like, oh, episode 19 is one of my favorites, and they forget all about episode 20. But story-wise and character-wise, I wouldn't say I like this one better. That would be a stretch. But there are certain moments where like, this is so important for the series as a whole. It is up there on my list of favorite episodes from this series.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy it. I definitely enjoy it more than some of the other episodes where like not a lot happens. I think we just learn a lot in this, and so it's exciting to see what's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
All right. That was the end. Megan, what was your favorite line?
Mine came from Al when he said, you and brother always gotta be the first to explode. I never get the chance to be the one to get mad. Which I relate to hardcore.
It's always kind of scary when the people who never get mad. So
I have seen fear in people's eyes when I have yelled, which is very rare. And it's delicious to see the fear.
I have all this power.
Fear me. Well, I'm generally an easygoing person, and I try not to cause waves. I avoid conflict like the plague, but there are some things that can set me off, and people notice when I have a mood change. I'm guessing
Yeah.
the same for you too.
Yeah, I don't get angry often, and it's even more rare that I will yell. Like if I do get angry, it's more of like the simmering like rage beneath the surface. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, I can't remember the last time I like yelled. I don't know if I really yeah, probably when I was still in high school. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Oof.
Uh,
All right.
all right.
What was your favorite line of the episode?
Yes, mine came from Pinocchio, and I kind of already said it, but it was when Hohenheim was wanting her to leave, and she's just like, "Meh, this country's lousy with terrible things." I just, I don't know, I love that, and honestly, I kind of relate to it too. Like when life is just like piling things on, and just kind of like, whatever, it is what it is, you know.
This is fine.
All right. What did we learn in this episode?
Digging up the past to find the truth, even when it's painful, is important. I mean, of course, there are stipulations to that, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you gotta look behind you in order to move forward. I know people say leave the past behind you and keep going on, but you can learn from the past, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it is kind of painful. What's that Lion King quote? It's like the past can hurt, but you can either regret it or learn from it or something like that. It's something Rafiki said.
Hmm. I don't remember, but I like this kind of related um to this Ed in the manga. He says, "An alchemist is someone who seeks the truth. I can't look at what's convenient and ignore everything else." Kind of reminded me of the of what we each picked as the
Yeah.
well, the moral of the episode.
I think it's an important life lesson because
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
lie to yourself and remain ignorant, or you could face facts and learn and grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I like. That's what I like about this show is that like it's I don't know, in a lot of shonen it's all about like getting physically stronger and like I don't know, leveling up. And here it's more learning
Learning to be a
learning
human.
from learning what it is to be human and becoming stronger not so much physically, but like mentally and emotionally and it's refreshing, I guess.
Yes. It's comforting.
As much as I love to see power-ups in other shonen, like I also love this. All right. And who pushed the story forward in this episode?
Hohenheim and Ed, father and son. So, Hohenheim was the one who suggested that Trisha wasn't in the human transmutation, and he challenged Ed's line of thinking, and then Ed took the necessary steps to confront his mistake and learn from it, which, kudos to him. I'm not sure if I would have the guts to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was as powerful as it was. It was really hard to watch, and like I don't know if I was in that situation. I don't know if I would want to know, because
But at the same time, you'd always have that regret of not
yeah,
knowing. So, yeah.
it was a good. He made the right choice.
Yes,
Um,
yes, for sure.
but yeah, that's the end. Next week, is we're gonna be releasing an episode on Tuesday as usual, but it's Valentine's Day, so we have a special episode. I will let
Yeah.
Megan explain what it is because it's kind of her brainchild.
That's my baby. So we're taking a hiatus from the normal episodes based on Brotherhood, and we're doing this special thing. It's an episode, but it has also a video that we will post on YouTube that you can check out too. We're having a special guest. So my friend Ava, who was also a roommate of mine in college, who Megan, she kind of know each other through me. So
Hmm.
we all got together and did a little discussion about fictional crushes, which I know that sounds cringy, but we based it off of a YouTuber called Emirichu who did some videos that are very cute and very funny and kind of wholesome at times. But yeah, it was just a goofy, fun time. So I hope that you'll tune into that episode. It's a little longer, but it's super fun, and I'm working hard
Mhm.
on the video to go with that on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, it'll be fun if you guys check it out. And maybe we did talk about Full Metal a little bit. You'll have to find out.
Among other shows.
Yes. Anyway, check out our Instagram for memes and art and episode announcements. It's at Full Metal Beyond the Gate. And then also, if you have any questions or comments, you can DM us or email us at Full Metal Beyond the Gate at gmail.com. And yeah, check out our YouTube channel as well. Megan has been uploading stuff on it. So
Trying to catch up. I'm trying,
yeah.
guys.
All right, we will be back next week with our special Valentine's episode.
All right, bye.
Bye.